Hello everyone, and welcome back to DMG. Today I'm going to be disassembling this little thin client tablet thing that I took a look at a couple videos ago. I thought it would be cool to build like a little all-in-one PC out of it that is not in this kind of form factor, so I'm going to be taking it apart and then probably making a custom case for it. So, let's see what we've got first. First, I'm going to take the SD card out. One interesting thing I want to say is it has a lot of partitions, a lot, and when I reinstalled Windows, it reinstalled all of the drivers and the Android dual boot thing as well, so that must be stored in one of the partitions. I just have 4 screws on the bottom, it looks like. Not too complex. Now, actually getting it out though, there might be snaps along the side. Are there? No, it's just held in by the tension of this plastic on the side. Okay, so I think that was pretty simple, and that's very basic. Look at that thermal pad, that is thick. Now, thermal pads become ineffective the thicker they get. So like the thicker a thermal pad is, the less effective it's going to be at getting heat away from something, because it's just acting as an insulator because there's so much material. And also the CPU isn't even on this side of the board, so I don't know why they put that thermal pad there. We've got a sticker on the back of the board that has Windows 10 checked off, so indicating they made lots of revisions of this thing. So it looks like it does come apart quite easily. Now the screen, getting the screen out is going to be the difficult thing. When it's in its AIO form, I don't plan to use the touchscreen. I'll turn off Windows tablet mode and have it go only keyboard and mouse. I'm going to keep this screen around and try not to break it just in case I ever do want to incorporate it, because that would be cool. It looks like that's part of our screen down here. So here's our board, volume up, volume down, and power, I believe, if I remember the layout correctly. Yes, that is the correct layout. I also have to be very careful not to tear any of these very small ribbon cables. Now it looks like this external plastic thing has a smaller plastic thing that it is attached to. So of course I will have to detach it from that. Alright, there we go. Now we just need to get the screen out. And that's going to be quite tricky, probably. I don't know why that tape is there, but it probably doesn't really need to be there just for basic function. So yeah, it feels like this is separate, and it feels like it wants to come out. So if I just gotta make sure not to get under the actual backlight of the screen, because that would immediately destroy it. Yeah, this is just sliding out. Ow! Before I continue, I think it would be wise to disconnect these. Now, luckily no 2 of these connectors have the same amount of pins. So keeping track of what goes where is really easy, because it's just common sense. Put it in the hole that it fits in, and it won't fit in any other hole other than the one that it's supposed to go in. now, once I get these off, I want to take a closer look at the board. I guess I won't be getting them off then. I'm actually not going to take this off because it's just very hard. But under this heat spreader, that's probably our CPU. That is our Wi-Fi module. The Samsung is likely our RAM, and if not RAM, that is our storage, but I would think it would be our RAM. I don't want to pull up the heatsink. Well, I want to, but I shouldn't, because there's a chance that it wouldn't go back on as it's supposed to. Because I'm a lot less precise than the machine in the factory that put this together. There we go. Oh no, I just chucked a screw across the room. Alright, so there we're seeing the back side of the display panel. Now here, those are our speakers on these two little triangular pieces. So they actually did that, put the speakers in an isolated compartment to benefit acoustics, which that is good. I wish more companies would do that, especially with like laptops, that kind of thing. Because speakers just like sitting there sound a lot worse than speakers in an isolated, sealed off compartment. And these speakers sound okay, so I'm going to be reusing them. Wow! Okay, this speaker design is very interesting. So we can see the speaker holes on the side are this big. I thought it would be speakers mounted directly to it, but no, it uses these like speaker hole things, and then the sound is directed out of there. I guess so so that they can fit a larger speaker in a smaller hole, which that's a very smart design. I'm not going to be reusing that design in the AIO. I'm just gonna probably drill holes in the case and mount them. But I like what they did there. It works quite well for the setup that they had going. And the other one appears to be the same. The speaker's a slightly different color, but that's just down to whatever the cheapest metal they could make it out of at the time was. Now they are plastic cone, but they aren't like super cheap plastic cone. I've seen a lot worse plastic cone in my days. Looks like I'm gonna have to cut this part to get the wire out, because it was probably soldered after they put the speakers in there. I'm gonna mess with that whole thing later. Right now, oh, that was really easy. I just gotta set this down. I'll put it there. And now, of course, the touch digitizer. My least favorite part to try and get out. I'm gonna leave the digitizer in there because if I'm gonna be using keyboard and mouse, if I ever want to put this back together, it doesn't feel like it's going to come out easily. And of course, these are outstandingly easy to break. It's stuck in with adhesive. So, I mean, even just going around the edge with one of these would probably shatter it. I mean, I could try. Oh yeah, I'm feeling way too much resistance. So I'm just going to leave that be, just in case I ever want to put this machine back in its original form factor. Now I disconnected the screen ribbon cable and just left it on the floor so that I can mess further with the speakers. Because unfortunately they are soldered to the board. instead of what I think they should be, which is socketed like everything else. That plastic is rather thick though, so they will be hard to get out. Alright, that plastic is too thick to cut, so what I'm going to do is cut these and then resolder them. And I'm leaving ample wire length for when I do resolder them. So now the plastic stuff is off of our board. Now we've just got our, I love the look of just a fresh, clean LCD, you know? It's a 16 by 10, 1920 by 1200 panel, as I discussed in the first video, which if you haven't seen, I recommend to go and watch it. Let's see. So what I will probably do is make like a custom wood case for this. Or what would be cool is a PC in a GPU box. My main concern is getting the screen to fit. Yeah, that would fit. Alright. I mean, I might as well start working on it now. I'll get all this electronic crap out of the way. This GPU box has an anti-steal thing. That's interesting. I bought this GPU online. I wouldn't think they would put that in a box where customers wouldn't actually be directly interacting with it. But, you know, it's interesting. Of course, this will not be the final product. Now, usually I would hold the thing up and use it as a template, but with screens being so incredibly sensitive, I don't want to use it as a template, because if I accidentally cut it, it would shatter. You don't really get a second chance with LCDs. Now I remember the screen being a bit smaller than that, which is intentional, so that I can cut it a little bigger. I can't put the cardboard back after I've cut it though. Okay, actually, I think I cut that pretty well first time around. Now I just need to cut a hole here so that I can work on it. I'm just going to be using electric tape because this hopefully won't be its permanent enclosure. So I don't want to do anything too permanent. So I won't be using like hot glue, like that kind of thing. Alright, first we'll just kind of place our screen in there. Well, actually no, first we're going to tape the box all the way closed. There we go. I think that aligns pretty well with the holes that I cut. Now the large metal back panel from the tablet AIO thing, I think I'm gonna reuse that as a heatsink because, I mean, in the final product, I am going to have some sort of heatsink because it needs heat to be synced from it. Even though it's less than 3 watts, the processor, I believe. I think it's 2.2 according to Intel's spec. But it's a super low wattage CPU, so it doesn't need too much heat taken from it, but I can't just leave it bare. because that is evil. That is something only an evil man would do. I love it. Now, of course, it's still not done, but it's very unevenly cut, and that just makes it better. I think I'm gonna put it exactly like this. I don't want to break the display ribbon cable, so I don't want to twist it and turn it too much. But I think I'm gonna have this I/O here and then this I/O on the top, because that's the way that it naturally wants to go. And with those little fragile cables, you don't want to bend them around too much because they will snap if you look at them and think about them snapping. This reminds me of when I was like 8 years old, and I would find just like old computer fans and make my own air conditioners out of like pieces of ice and cardboard. Now, of course, this didn't work too well because it just blew the moist air onto the cardboard and it would dissolve after a couple hours, but I thought it was the coolest thing. Now here I am putting a whole PC in a cardboard box, and I'm literally in high school. But these buttons, they actually hold up well, like it didn't immediately break. I just thought if I put it this way, the camera can see it better. And I can use my desk to my advantage to hold that down. So pretty much same thing over here, just gonna tape this down. Next, I'm just going to tape this board down, and then I think it's testing time. Now, if I've gotten this far and it won't work without the touchscreen, that will be very sad, because at that point I am pulling that digitizer out and gluing it to the front. Wi-Fi chip might get a bit hot with having something taped over it. I think I'm just going to tuck that behind there and ignore the world's problems. This is the future. You don't even need the GPU in the box, you could just game on the box. Granted, with a quad-core Atom, you're not going to be playing many games, but that is entirely beside the point. Now I'm realizing that I kind of didn't cut a hole for the SD slot, so I will hastily do it. There we go, there it is. Come on. If this works, I will be so excited. Oh, it's booting. I think it said like touch screen failure or something, which makes sense. I mean, I disconnected it. I'm gonna pull out a keyboard, the heaviest, thickest keyboard that I have on hand, just to hilariously contrast with this thing. No. Oh, I just thought. Because, because the board was the exact opposite way when it was in the thin client, that means that the G sensor is flipped around. Alright, I've moved to my friend's desk instead of on the floor because that's going to be a lot more comfortable. There's not space on my desk, obviously. Wi-Fi wasn't working for a while, and then these two top USB ports stopped working. I just wiggled the connectors, and then I plugged this Wi-Fi antenna back in, and it seems to be working now. Now, I do get that error on startup about, like, device initialization, sorry. So I guess that's the digitizer because it's not present. So I was thinking if I plug in just the module instead of the actual digitizer itself, that's that big ribbon cable down there, that chip is what controls it. The digitizer has nothing in it that will actually report back, I believe. So if it just sees that that chip is connected, it might not give me that error. So that'll skip a couple seconds of BIOS time with it telling me that, you know, it's failing to initialize. It can just skip that. So in the final, I might do that. I'm gonna open Task Manager really quickly. Oh yeah, I also cut a bit away from that part of the screen. But yeah, I mean, here's our little CPU. Our memory is almost full, literally just sitting here on the desktop. So yeah, 1.7 gigs full, 230 megs free. Just from literally sitting here. What's using the most memory? Windows Modules Installer is using 700 megabytes. Oh yeah. I forgot on these older builds of Windows. Look at the memory usage when I killed that process. Wow. Yeah, with 32 gigs of RAM, I'm not used to, you know, knowing how bloated Windows is. Windows is pretty bloated, but like, wow. And look at the CPU usage. It just dropped off after I killed it as well, and the disk usage. So it was doing something that it shouldn't have been. I've got Need for Speed downloading to an SD card on another computer. I'm just going to make sure that it works. I'll just search up my channel. We see a bit of a spike. I hope the Wi-Fi works. If I just go to a website, hopefully, maybe. Our Wi-Fi is just not going to work for us. It was working a few minutes ago, but I guess the cable wiggled loose. I'll fix that later. Okay, good. So it's unzipping to the micro SD card, which is probably what I'm going to put most of the applications on because the local disk is not very big at all. It's trying to get me to free up storage space, and I've reinstalled Windows like 20 minutes ago. And did settings crash? Yes, it did. Nice. What? Okay, I would think that would be an overheating thing. Now unplug it and check. Whoo! Yeah. Okay, so I definitely do need to do something more with thermals. Because that is like painful. Wait a minute. Why is this plastic sheet on the processor? I don't know what it's doing, but that seems counterintuitive. Yeah, that seems like it would be blocking a lot of the cooling. A piece of plastic. Alright, yeah, so it did overheat. I mean, after all, we've already seen its performance. So, I think I am going to end the video here. I'll probably start building the box quite soon, and that will be in a video. I'm doing this in conjunction with another, hopefully, mini PC build kind of thing. Yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you everyone for watching. See you next time.